Hello and happy Friday! Welcome to another episode of Findmypast Fridays, our weekly live show about all things family history and all things interesting to family historians. And that's the first time I've got that right for quite some weeks. I'm Alex Cox, your regular host as usual. I'm joined off camera by the fabulous Max Anderton, who is watching all your comments, questions, tips, anything you send in. And I do say this every week, but the whole point of this is to get you all talking to each other and to us, so don't be shy, join the conversation. Whoa, sorry, we're just watching the rain out the window behind Max. British weather is back with a vengeance. Classic British
last
weather.
week when we were celebrating the sunshine, and now I've never seen rain that
I have never seen. Sorry guys, you can't obviously see it. It has to be seen to be believed.
This is great live viewing.
This is great live viewing, yes. But on the subject of great, we've got a corker of an episode for you this week. Yes, we've been really looking forward to this one, and it's going to be great. I also wanted to say a quick thanks to everybody who got involved last week, because last week's broadcast was such a success. We had such fun doing it, and we got so many great stories in. Revelations was obviously a hot topic. I think we'll have to revisit that, but you guys shocked us. Some of the ones that came in were significantly darker than we were expecting.
They were, weren't they?
Yeah, but this week's episode is all about retracing your ancestors' footsteps, walking in your ancestors' footsteps. So yeah, it's not just, we've all, obviously, you're here, you're watching us, we've all researched online records, we've all investigated our ancestors' lives from the comfort of an office chair or a desk, But how many of you have actually gone out there and visited the locations? How many of you have gone to visit where your ancestors lived, where they worked, where they just basically tried to get a sense of their experiences? So that's our question of the week. Tell us about your journeys. Where have you visited, or where would you like to visit? Is there somewhere really, that you know your ancestors are from, you haven't been able to get there? I know that Ireland is a very popular destination for American family historians because so many Americans have Irish heritage. So get involved, let us know.
Can I just interrupt you quickly?
Yeah?
Just say hello to everyone. Hello to everyone that's watching. Hello to Nick Hancock. Hello. We got a good day from Australia.
Hi Nick, you all right?
Good day from Australia, from Elizabeth Ball. Good day. Sylvia Valentine.
Hi Sylvia.
It's just said from sunny Yorkshire, I think, and then the comments just disappeared. Nice. But hello to everyone. And Lindsay Leewood says, it was raining earlier, but sunny now here in Manchester.
It's actually easing off now. Hopefully that was just a temporary shower. But yeah, we've had a few people already send some in. So William Shaw, one of our regular viewers, has said, I did have his comment, and now it's my iPad has just...
Well, while you're doing that, William's actually just commented again, just saying it's best way to actually go and see the places. He went to Scotland, found out more from the Dunfermline Library and Archives. He also got to see a house village where his ancestors lived.
So you've got, William sent an earlier comment in, so you've obviously been all over the show hunting for ancestors, William, because you've been the length of the UK, from Cheshire down to London, across to Portsmouth. That's your home turf, isn't it?
That is my home turf, yeah.
And up to Scotland via internet, all the way to Hong Kong, USA, and beyond to Australia. Wow! Jealous. Very well travelled. And actually, Rosie Rowley, similarly, I think Hong Kong as well. She said, I bet not many researchers have a reader's ticket for the Hong Kong Public Records Office. I don't think many do too. But if you do, let us know.
Yeah.
One of my favourite cities, Hong Kong, actually. But yeah, so on the subject of great, we've got something a bit different for you this week. Our Jen Baldwin, who's one of our very own record specialists, she works in our US office, has prepared. Well, basically, Max has prepared a fantastic little video with Jen to show you. So,
well, it's a little bit guerrilla filmmaking. So Jen was here, and she wanted to go, on this little trip, and sort of came up to me and Alex and just said, "Actually, do you guys want to come along and film it?" So it was very ad hoc.
Yes.
So there's a bit of shaky camera work. It's not quite the slickest of productions, but it's a fantastic work.
And it was a fantastic experience to be with Jen on that journey as well, because Jen's in the comments as well. So if you have any questions for Jen, do ask them, particularly if it's about tracing ancestors across the Atlantic, because Jen is an incredible family historian. What she does, I say this about Audrey all the time, but the same goes for Jen. What Jen doesn't know about family history is not worth knowing. She is incredibly knowledgeable, and she's done her family tree all the way back to the 1600s. She's traced her ancestors to some of the very first European settlers in America. And what was so lovely about when she came over was that she was the first member of her family since they left England in the 1600s to revisit Stepney, part of East London, London, which is where her ancestors had originally lived. I don't want to give too much away.
I was going to say, spoiler alert.
I'm not going to spoil it, but we'll play that for you shortly. But yeah, do let us know where you visited. I've been, I haven't gone too far afield. I've been about 10 minutes down the road from my flat, because a bit of an odd coincidence. You can maybe be able to tell from my slight accent, but I'm not originally from London. I grew up on the Wirral, and I now live in Twickenham. And when I started working here and expanding my family tree, I was very surprised to discover that all my ancestors literally lived about 4 streets from where I'm living now. Pure coincidence. We genuinely didn't know they were from Twickenham. So I've been around to peek at their houses. Have you ever done any of that, Max? No?
Well, actually, it was amazing. I started exploring my maternal line and found out that my great-great-grandparents on that side actually lived just round the corner from where I live now.
It's just, yeah.
And so I went to go and visit it, but I walked past it every day. I didn't even know. And so it's like that weird thing where it feels almost like it was like, an ancestral calling for me to end up living there.
Some kind of weird instinct that you're not aware you have.
We've got some fantastic comments still coming through here. Loads of people have been trekking all up and down the country. People also having those sort of same serendipitous sort of events. Like Linda here says, my first job was in Navigation Street, Walsall. Fast forward 45 years and I discovered my dad was born there.
Oh, wow.
It's
yeah,
amazing.
it is. Stuff like that is spooky. It does make you think, was there something on a subconscious level?
And Sue Kelly said that the sound and picture is out of sync. It looks fine at our end. If that's an issue, let us know. I'm not sure if we can do anything beyond stopping the stream and starting again. So,
which we'd rather not do.
Yeah, so fingers crossed that the sound is in sync for the video. And if there is an issue with that, then we'll post it on YouTube anyway afterwards. So, it'll be there to watch properly in time. So apologies if that is the case. It looks fine at our end. So without further ado,
you've probably heard enough from me now. Let's get to the good bit. And while the video is playing, do get involved. Send, let us know where you've been, or again, where you'd like to go. What would be your dream heritage tour? That's what they call them, don't they? Heritage holidays, which are a very popular thing. Without further ado, roll VT.
I have a really cool job. I get to go search out historical records and help get them online. Today we are in London, England, and I am at St. Paul's Shepney Church, which is the location actually where Thomas Jefferson's mother was baptized. I'm here specifically in this area of London because I am in pursuit of my ancestor Henry Collins, who left this part of London in 1635. So his story doesn't start at this church. I'm at this church because Thomas Jefferson's mom was baptized here. But his story does include the road that we're on, which is, during his time, was referred to as Ratcliffe Highway. And he lives somewhere along this stretch of road in London. The headstones in the cemetery behind me are actually larger than I am.
Max asked me to record this voiceover because the sound quality wasn't very good on the day we hit the streets of London. It was a pretty busy place. Also, I think Max sometimes just likes telling me what to do and giving me a bunch of extra work, so thanks a lot, Max. Just kidding. I was so excited at the time, you probably would have just heard squeals out of me anyway, so a voiceover is probably not a bad idea. My colleague and fellow genealogist, Stephen, took me on a tour of the area of Ratcliffe Highway, the area in which my ancestor once lived. Although starting at St. Paul's was really an interesting American connection, I soon realized that everywhere I looked, I was surrounded by my British heritage. Together, we walked along the Ratcliffe Highway towards the historic hamlet of Ratcliffe, which was the main hamlet of the parish of Stepney. Now, I thought we were in for a nice afternoon stroll, but Stephen had a few surprises in hand for me, and I'll be forever grateful for him for that. He showed me a set of stairs, where there would have been stairs in 1635 when Henry Collins also needed to access the River Thames. He showed me roads that would have been there in Henry Collins' era. So it really was quite an experience. My ancestor, Henry Collins, would likely have walked to this highway to get to his parish church, St. Dunstan and All Saints in Stepney, which is our final destination for this afternoon's little adventure. Before entering the church grounds, we stopped off at the former site of the Stepney Meeting Burial Ground almhouses and school. Some of the headstones were taller than I am. Now, I'll admit I'm not even quite average height for a woman in this day and age, but it was still a very interesting stop to make, gave us a little bit of perspective of the works of the parish beyond just the church itself. But also it was interesting from a genealogical perspective to see the headstones, to get a feel for what was important to them in that era. Now, most of these headstones were not the same time frame as when Henry Collins was in London, but it was still a good little history lesson. An experience like this really puts the emotion we see on shows like Who Do You Think You Are and Genealogy Roadshow into perspective, because you've really no idea what it feels like to walk in your ancestors' shoes until you actually go and do it for yourself. Personally, this experience was incredibly powerful. It was a reminder of my heritage. It was a reminder of where I know my family to have started and to have been 300 years ago. It was incredibly potent to know that I was likely the first one in my family to come back after such a long gap. Throughout the experience, even as excited as I was, I really had to stop and continuously remind myself to slow down and savor every moment, take in deep breaths, and really just embrace the entire afternoon. It was much more than just taking a walk down a street and ending up at a church. It was a life-changing experience. It's one I'll never forget. The sound quality was much better in that quiet church ground, so over to me.
So I have just walked about a mile from a point on Radcliffe Highway, what was known as Radcliffe Highway, and I'm now at St. Dunstan's Parish Church in Stepney. So essentially, the road grid is still the same today as it was in 1635. So I've essentially just walked in my ancestors' footsteps, and I've arrived at their church, and I'm about to enter into the church and actually sit in on a service. It's been over 300 years since my family has walked those steps, that I know of at least. And I'm a little giggly. It's a moment that I've been waiting for a really long time, since I was about 10 years old. So it's quite emotional, actually, but it's very powerful. And even though it doesn't look anything like it did when he was here, just knowing that I'm here and he was here, and what has happened in between to get me back to this point it's just very powerful. It's hard to explain, really. I'm feeling quite overwhelmed, actually. It's a sense of pride because I've done this research for so long. I've been looking for these people since I was about 10 years old, trying to understand what my family's journey was like and where we came from. And this is literally the spot where we came from, right here. He had to come to this parish to get permission to come to America, to come to the New World. So he was here on these grounds, talking, walking these halls, being in this space. It's quite overwhelming, but it's something I'm trying to soak in. I'm trying to remember the birds chirping and the noise from the street, but the temperature and what it feels like to be here, so I can bring that home to my family and share that experience. It's quite a lot, but it's all of your senses in one place, just soaking it up. As an American genealogist, many of us have this objective of trying to trace the family across the pond, and if you get the chance to come over here and retrace their steps, even though it's a completely different environment, it's absolutely worth it. It's worth it to do it with someone who's knowledgeable, someone who knows the area. It's worth it to do your homework and figure out what you're going to see and what that route is. But it's a feeling you can't duplicate any other way. There's only one way to walk in their footsteps, right? And that's to actually make the journey and come over and do that. So whether it's downtown London and very modern city buildings, or it's the Irish countryside, wherever your family comes from, it's worth it to get back over to the United Kingdom. Absolutely recommend that people do this if you ever get the opportunity. To come over to where your ancestors first originated from, where they came from, where they lived, to see the environment that they experienced. It's like nothing you can duplicate. You can see their names in a black and white piece of paper, but to see an original document or to see the parish or the church that they were from, there's nothing like that in the world. So whether it's walking through downtown London, even though it's a modern landscape, you're still getting the sense of where they were and what they experienced. It's the Irish countryside. It may be rolling hills, but you still know that their eyes looked upon that same spot.
While filming, a friendly local parishioner named Ryan stopped to introduce himself. He was actually on his way into the parish for the evening service. He kindly shared some of the things he knew about the history of the church.
So you were, your family's from here?
Yes, my family was here last year in 1635. This is where they immigrated from.
Immigrated from?
Yeah.
Wow. From where?
Well, they lived here and they went to the colonies. They were in Massachusetts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this church actually got built in 953. As the original foundation of the church was in 953.
It's amazing.
If you look at the actual church itself, the actual middle piece of the church was originally built, and it was originally a wooden shack in the beginning with, and they eventually built it from there. But
Right.
eventually then you put the two side pieces on, and from this side on the other side, which is now where we have meetings and stuff in the back.
Right.
But the original actual main walk path and actual bricks you can see in the back. Right in the very back of the altar you see a stamp on 953. Unfortunately the windows aren't the same. The windows are you got blown out of course in the war.
Oh, sure.
With the Blitz and whatnot, but they got redone. The workers union from the docks, they all sponsored it because this was a local community church
Right,
from the
right,
war.
yeah.
And all these buildings around here used to be all used to be farmland. And if you go down this road down here at the back there, used to be out the old rectory. And there's,
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you walk down here and turn right, there's another graveyard in the back there.
Yes, we
You
were
down-
there. Yes.
You were there? Well,
Yeah.
if you just say that old building in the back of what's around about there, this all used to be land. And that used to be the old rectory where they used to stay and they used to walk over here to the church.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
how they walk. Imagine all the people that used to walk down
Right.
these
yeah,
paths.
Yeah. That's so that's what I've actually done this afternoon is
Right,
kind of retrace
your
the
steps.
footsteps.
Yes,
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
really amazing because
Yeah.
you walk the same steps as what people have done, lords and ladies and everything. Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Yeah. So it's great to meet you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So what's your name?
My name is Ryan Marnie.
And you live here.
Yes, I live just right across up the road a bit, but no, I actually live in the old rectory is where I actually live.
Do you really?
Yes.
And this is your church.
This is the church. I come here every Wednesdays and Sundays, yes.
It's fantastic. So nice to meet
And you too,
Ryan.
ma'am.
Thank
Have a marvelous
you so
blessed day.
much.
No worries. Thank you very much.
Throughout the hour or so that we'd been on this little adventure of ours, the rush of emotions that had been building up inside of me was really getting to the brimming point. I kept thinking to myself, this can't get any better. This has been so incredible. And I soon found myself, of course, at the steps of the church, ready to open that door and walk through into this building that for many is just a church, but for me is in some way kind of the pinnacle of my family history experience. This is, as far as I know, the earliest recorded presence of my family. This is the place for me. So it was just an incredible thing to walk through those doors.
Wasn't that special? It was an amazing experience for us to join Jen on that journey. And one of the things, we actually got so much footage, there's loads of it that we just couldn't squeeze in. But one of the really lovely bits afterwards that was when Jen actually went into the church, that very kind of helpful parishioner gave her a little tour and,
Well, I think it was actually the priest or the
was he
vicar,
like
because it's
that?
Church of England. And
was he?
Yeah, and Jen said that they were just sort of quite used to people actually coming and going on their heritage tours.
Yeah, well, the thing I found really, really cool was when Jen went into the church, it was the same font, this 400-year-old font that her ancestor was actually baptised in.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So it's, the video's gone down very well. There's a few people in the comments section who said, I've got chills watching this. And I think to say Jen got chills is an understatement. But imagine, so not only is she visiting the church where her ancestor worshipped, she was able to kind of touch something that her ancestor touched. That is probably the closest you'll ever get to physical contact with an ancestor. And Jen's also actually just sent us a lovely email saying she's watching it with her 9-year-old daughter and she's just sent us a photo. So say hello to Jen and her daughter.
Jen's also just corrected me in the comments saying, no, he wasn't the priest, he was a parishioner.
That's the one.
I know that he was a parishioner, but what I meant, Jen, is when you went in the church
Oh,
afterwards.
the vicar, yeah.
The vicar was very helpful.
But no, that was like our own little "Who do you think you are" moment. I really, we had a fantastic time, and it seems.
And Miko's popped in the comments. When are we going to have an all expenses paid trip to Sicily?
Miko, I'm so down
ready
for that.
and waiting.
I'm
Ready
so
and
down
waiting.
for that. If you're able to convince, if you're able to get that going, we're there. That would be lovely. But no, it seems like doing what Jen has done is a very popular pastime for many of you. Many of you have been very far afield. India seems like quite a popular destination. I guess that's because so many Britons had ancestors who went over to India to work. But we've had Caroline Miller went from the northern tip of Sanday in Orkney to see where her 3 times great uncle, the light keeper, was born, and his extended family served on the lighthouses from California to Australia in the 1800s and right up to automation. Oh, this is a good one actually. Phoebe Cowan wrote in to say that born in London, like many of her relatives, but was searching for her great-great-uncle who was a doctor in the Limehouse area of London, but came to an absolute dead end. It's a good takeaway from this as well. She couldn't find him in the GRO, deaths or references, or in any censuses. For all intents and purposes, the man had just vanished. So she thought, hang on, why don't I look in what would then be referred to as the colonies? And bang, she found him straight away. It's a good tip, that. So if you're ever struggling to, if an ancestor does appear to just vanish from records, why don't you have a look in Australian or American or other records overseas? They may well have left the country. But the story gets better there because so she found him as the signing officer on a death certificate in Victoria, Australia. So she searched for death records and discovered his death in a place called Foster. And I love this bit. She emailed the family history centre there, and apparently it's this really small little village. And they were beside themselves with excitement. And how lovely is this? They actually tidied up the grave for Phoebe. So when Phoebe went over to visit it, the press even turned up and took a photo. So yeah, that's amazing. Oh, and Lynn B. Thomas, we've got something in common here. Lynn B. Thomas's top destination. She'd love to visit the birthplace of her great-grandfather, which is Copenhagen. That is where my great-great-grandmother was born, and I would also love to visit. Maybe we should go together.
I heard a brilliant one here just about Julia Pitton said went to church, Monks Kirby, and rang the church bell that her uncle had rang for over 35 years.
That's cool. Yeah,
I always wanted to ring one of those big church bells.
With the ones where you get lifted up in the air.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
does look like incredible fun. No, it's... the reason I guess it's so popular is because I don't think there's a better way of kind of getting a sense for what your ancestors would have experienced. I mean, apart from peeking through windows in Twickenham, I was very fortunate to be able to go to Normandy with my grandfather, so he was still living at the time, and retrace his steps during the Normandy landings, because he was on the first wave on D-Day on Gold Beach, and that was... Let's just say that was an emotional experience. It's one of the most memorable events in my life, I'd say. But no, it's great to hear that so many of you are flying all over the show, retracing these steps. Have we had any other comments in, Max?
Oh, loads.
Loads, too many to count.
Everywhere. You lot are globe-trotting jet setters.
Well, I guess, shall I leave it at that?
I think so. Though, just before we do leave, though, we've got actually a comment here from Eric Anderson saying, would Jen be able to help with ancestor whose death certificate I have from New York, but no more info on time before in US? I mean, I don't know. It's up to Jen's watching.
Jen, she is watching.
I don't want to put you in it, Jen. You've probably got many things on your plate today, but maybe get in touch and see if you can help Eric.
But yeah, no, so thank you everyone for tuning in. Massive thanks to Jen as well for bringing us along on what was quite a special moment for her and letting us film the whole thing as well.
Oh, Jen, bless her darlings, just said, Eric, please send it across.
Oh, Jen, you're a star.
We're the helpful family history company.
We really are. So yeah, I mean, thank you so much for tuning in. Let us know what you thought of the video.
Yep.
Thanks as always for commenting, liking, sharing, supporting us.
We will not be here next week.
We will not be here next week, sadly. We're having a week off because I'm on my stag do. Max is also in attendance. So I don't know where I'll be next Friday, but I'll be somewhere.
Being very sensible.
Being very sensible. I'm sure it's going to be very, very sensible. But we'll be back the following week.
The following week, I think we have penciled in to have special guest Miko Clennon doing a Scottish record special.
Yes.
TBC.
It's going to be a good one. We haven't done Scottish records yet.
No, we've had a few people
Miko
requesting
is,
it.
like Jen, also an incredibly knowledgeable family historian, so that's going to be a good one. And I also wanted to say, Nick Hancock, because I know you're watching. We're really looking forward to telling your grandfather's story. That's gonna come very, very soon. I've got Paul Nixon on the case. He's had a look at your grandfather's service record. I'm going to see if you can find anything else. But yeah, thank you to everyone watching. Massive thanks to Jen. We really hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, have a lovely weekend.
Have lovely weekends. Bye bye.